Go therefore and make disciples. Now, who is this Jesus that commands us to do such a thing? Well, if we did what we did before and turned to the small catechism, which I'm sure all of you have memorized, right? We hear his confession that I believe that Jesus Christ, true God, begotten of the Father in eternity, and also a true human being born of the Virgin Mary, is my Lord. He has redeemed me, a lost and condemned human being. So right off the bat, we hear the confession that he is both human and divine. Certainly a familiar tune to all of us. But if we return to my original comment that I made, that these scriptures aren't necessarily about Jesus, but about what God is doing through Jesus, does that change how we see Jesus? So I guess maybe my question really is, what is God doing through Jesus? Well, if we start with these final verses from Matthew's Gospel, we hear Jesus telling his disciples to go and make disciples, baptizing them and teaching them. And a disciple, as we know, is someone who follows and learns from a teacher. In this case, the teacher being Jesus, right? Jesus has had this group of disciples following him for quite a while, learning his ways and his stories, and now they're being called to live into what they've been taught. These followers and students are called to spread the word and make more followers and students of Jesus. So certainly we see Jesus here as a teacher, as our teacher. So God's work, then, is teaching us through Jesus. The words that Jesus speaks, the work that he does, and the life that he lives all show us what God wants from us. Live in this way, serve in this way, love in this way. So God continues this act of creating and sustaining that started in Genesis through what Jesus did for us. And at the end of it all, God shows us this incredible act of redemption through the death and resurrection of Jesus. So God here is teaching us about new life, redeemed life, and brings it about through what Jesus did on the cross. So we learn from what Jesus did and we follow him day after day to the cross so that we can live in the way that God calls us to live. We become disciples of Jesus, learning just what it is that God wants of us. And yes, he tells us to baptize, but this world is not going to be saved by merely getting people wet. The more important and life-changing task, and often the more difficult one, is that of making disciples. Because by making disciples, we are pointing the world to the person of Jesus Christ, who then in turn points us to the beginning, God. And now obviously Jesus brings us much more than just these few final lines that we hear in the Gospel of Matthew this morning. So I ask you, who has Jesus been to you? And who has Jesus been to this place? So if you will write those down at some point and let us join together in singing, Listen, God is calling.